Have a
and
great
Pearl
show. Have a
go.
great show.
Thank you all so much. Can you hear? Wait a minute. Can you all hear on
On
Facebook?
YouTube, yeah.
What about Facebook? I just
with your loved ones.
On
Yes.
StreamYard, yeah.
On StreamYard,
Yeah.
you can hear everything, and you can hear
Yeah.
you all
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, great, great. You can hear everything.
Yes.
Okay, great. Just checking.
Everything. Everything.
Okay.
Even the pin drop.
Okay, great, great, great. Thank you, Pastor Williams.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
thank you, my little amigos.
Great show.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Um,
Have a good
Thank
show.
you, Michael Ann. Say hello to Michael Ann, everybody, before you go. Hey, Michael Ann, love you, sweetie.
We'll start depositing money into Americans' bank accounts as soon as
Pastor
this
Williams, you're
weekend.
back in
As
the
much as
United States.
$1,400 in direct
I'm back
payments
on
to
American
those
soil. Yes,
Americans.
ma'am.
Bless your heart.
Chief Julie
I
Pace
know you were
says the
glad to get
Biden
out of here.
administration thinks this relief plan is a win
Oh,
for them.
ma'am. I needed a minute.
Oh, man. Now, have you been vaccinated? I mean, you don't have to say.
Yes, well, I did my first round. My second shot is coming up in a couple of weeks. Yep.
Okay. Did they
Colorado is
require that
calling
you
in
be
the National
vaccinated?
Guard to help during what's
They
expected to be a
didn't
monster
require
snowstorm this
vaccination. They
weekend.
did
Maybe
require
2
a
feet of
negative
snow in some
COVID
parts of Colorado.
test result.
Great,
hmm
great, great. Okay.
Going and coming. Yeah.
Great, great, great.
They were the airline was sticklers for that,
Very good.
which was good, really good. So
Okay, I like that.
SUVs in the
we
Michael
had to
Ann?
produce that at the airport.
How far in advance do they need it?
You can only have it. You can't have had your test more than 72 hours prior to the flight.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so no more than 3 days before the flight. Mm-hmm.
Okay, Michael Ann, you said I'm good on Facebook. Thank you, girlie. Samantha, Melissa, Daryl, Bab. Hey, 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 everybody. You know what we're going to be talking about? We've got Pastor Tisha Williams, who is back with us this week. We're so glad that she's here. We are going to be talking about, of course, President Biden's speech last night. He gave us a couple of target dates. May 1st, he says that every American certainly will have the opportunity to be vaccinated. And then July 4th, he said we could have small gatherings for the 4th of July. How wonderful that would be. I am eager, though, I must say this, Pastor Williams. I'm eager to hear them begin to talk about therapeutics as much as they talk about vaccines. Because
sure.
Merck has had they're in phase 2 of a very successful therapeutic. I'm going to get someone to talk about it. That they have found a drug, at least preliminarily, that can behave like Tamiflu does for the flu for COVID-19. Can knock it out in several days. And
I'm looking.
yeah, and I want to, I want us to begin to talk about that.
Yeah.
People need to know what their options are.
Right.
You know, because I don't want the president to sound like he's a pharmaceutical rep. Gets the vaccine, gets the vaccine.
Exactly.
It's like, come on. You know, particularly because people still don't know. I mean, and it's only when you get out here and you go to the grocery store, you talk to people. People think that once they've gotten the vaccine, they are free and clear, and that is not true. You can still.
That is not true.
It's not true. You can still contract coronavirus. You can still develop COVID-19. You can still spread it. So everybody, let me ask everyone, please like and share this show, like and share. And then LeBron James is under an enormous amount of pressure he's under an enormous amount of pressure to disclose whether he will be vaccinated or not. And so now you've got Stephen Smith and all of these other pundits who are piling in on him to get vaccinated. So we're going to talk about that too. He said, I'm going to keep it private. And so now people are now beginning to come after him, calling him an anti-vaxxer. It's like, wait a minute. Now on the left, we're becoming what we say we don't like on the right. It is his right to keep it private. This is a married man with children.
1 minute.
I mean, it's like, whoa, what are we doing here? So I just think there's a lot to talk about.
I don't think people realize. Yeah, I don't think people realize what a slippery slope that is. When you ask someone to divulge that personal information, we then open the door for people to have to share all sorts of personal information. And if that's the case, what is the point for HIPAA laws? We're
How
going to
about that?
require people to share their personal medical information. And so, yeah,
And then you're
I think
forcing me to take
30.
something that I might not be comfortable taking.
agreed. Right.
I'm like,
Exactly.
y'all stop that. Don't do that.
Because if we're going to share his personal, his personal taking the vaccine, how corporations demand that their
Five.
We're
personal
here.
medical information.
We're here. We're here.
Yeah.
We're here. Hold on one
Yeah.
moment.
This is the
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show, Friday, 12th, 2020. From the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, WCPT 820 in Chicago, and the voice of progressive Minnesota, AM 950 radio. I want you to call or text me at 773-763-WCPT, 773-763-9278. GWC Injury Lawyers afford you the opportunity to text us at that number as well. Got a lot to talk about today. Did you see the president's speech last night? What did you think of it? What did you think of it? A lot of people giving him high marks for empathy and for pushing through on Operation Warp Speed, because that's really what we're watching. We're watching the culmination of it. And so what do you think about that? What do you think about the May 1st target date, the July 4th target date? I want you to call me or text me at 773-763-WCPT, 773-763-9278. And please meet my morning stars here on the Santita Jackson and Friends page on Facebook. And we're also on a new YouTube page, the Santita Jackson Show page. So everyone, please hop on over there. Let's increase those numbers. And like and subscribe. Come on, Bab. Lead everybody over there. Nina, Deborah, Michael, Ann, Raphael, how you doing this morning? And Barbara Jean from Oak Park, and Deborah Thomas, and Brian Martin. I'm so grateful to have all of you. Rose Welton from California. Where are you in California? Where's Brother Jackson? Probably up reading somewhere or writing another book. My brother writes prolifically, he's a lot. Carol out there in Beverly Hills, the hills of Beverly. Blu-ray, how you doing? And Vicki Wells and Tare Griffin, Shirley from Philadelphia, Savannah. Have to give shout outs to all my lovelies. I love you, love you, love you. Daryl, how you doing? Samantha. All right, everybody, let's get right to it. Chicago, we're going to have a high of 53 degrees. It will be cloudy. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 45 degrees, sunny. The Dow closed up 188 points yesterday. The NASDAQ closed up 329 points. And the S&P 500 closed up 23 points. Today, we're going to be talking about the president's speech, and we're going to talk about this push to get LeBron James to disclose whether he is going to have the vaccine or not. He said it's going to be a private matter. What do you think about that? Something to be said. Let's get to these headlines, Paul. President Biden, just before he spoke yesterday, signed the $1.9 trillion relief bill, the American Rescue Plan, into law. Now, mind you, not one Republican voted for it, but it is still law. The president signed it, and he set into motion a vast effort on the part of his administration to implement one of the largest relief measures in American history. And you could be getting your checks, your $1,400 checks, very, very soon. Wow. In fact, in President Biden's speech last night, he said that states will, by May 1st, make the vaccines eligible to all adults. There will be no age restrictions. All adults will be eligible for the coronavirus vaccine on May 4th. And he declared a goal of allowing small on the 4th of July, setting up significant landmarks in the effort to after the pandemic. What do you think about that, everybody? Do you feel good about it? Are you going to get the vaccine? Are you still on the fence? Well, this is the goal, so we will see what's going to happen. It's been 1 year since we have all been locked away in this pandemic, and boy, has it been tough for everybody. The states, though, with the Republican governors, have the highest COVID incidence and death rates, everybody. Isn't that interesting? States with Democratic governors had the highest incidence and death rates from COVID-19 in the first months of the pandemic. But states with Republican governors surpassed those rates as the crisis dragged on. Derek Chauvin up there in Minneapolis, St. Paul, everybody. A trial judge reinstated the third-degree murder charge in the death of George Floyd. The judge overseeing this trial paved the way for the trial to proceed by reinstating this lesser charge against this officer. So what do you think about that? We were breaking it down yesterday. Many people are saying, don't be surprised. Don't be surprised. If things don't the way you might think they would, continue to look into that. Prince William says that the royals are not a racist family. Prince William denied Britain's royal family is racist Thursday in his first public comments since Prince Harry and Duchess Meghan's interview with Oprah Winfrey. He said, quote, "We're very much not a racist family. Everybody missed it a few days ago. Guess what? You won't miss it this time." Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves signed the Mississippi Fairness Act into law, requiring the state schools to designate teams by sex assigned at birth and prohibiting transgender student athletes from participating in school sports in accordance with their gender identification. And recent violence against Asian Americans, which the president spoke about last night, is highlighting a need for better tracking and reporting, according to according to these overviews. I mean, Asians are really being attacked. They're being blamed for the coronavirus. But interestingly enough, it's not being tracked. What do you think about that, everybody? What do you think about that? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Because all of that, people keep saying that it's un-American and it's most American. It just needs to stop. Interestingly enough, here are the states with the longest and shortest life expectancies. Wow, if you're born, the chances of living a long life aren't high. In Hawaii, you are at the top of the food chain. They take the top. California, New York, Minnesota, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Washington, and Rhode Island. But guess who's at the bottom? West Virginia, Mississippi, Alabama, Kentucky, Tennessee, Louisiana.
Way, but because of the boldness with which he comes, the friend will give him everything that he needs. History tells of a man named Joseph Scriven. He was a man who was deeply in love with his fiancée. For their wedding, he drowned. Christ. And in a situation that seemed hopeless, he wanted to also encourage his mother, who also loved his fiancée. So he wrote these words for his mother. He wrote a poem. The poem was titled "Pray Without Ceasing." Later, the words would be put to a song. What a friend we have in Jesus, all our sins and griefs to bear. What a privilege to carry everything to God in prayer. In the midst of his grief and disappointment, Scriven understood the power of prayer. You know, a few years ago, I was teaching a new members class in Sunday school, and we were between lessons. And so I opened the floor and said, what would you guys like to study today? And then with one voice, they said, can you teach us how to pray? And I remember being so encouraged because it indicated to me that somebody still had the desire to pray. Music is good, dancing is good, singing is good, but prayer, Santita, is still the key. And here we find the greatest teaching on prayer as found in this Gospel of Luke. Jesus is teaching his disciples the importance of prayer because prayer is communication. We have with God. We have phone, email, text messaging, social media. But here's what I love about prayer. You don't need a service plan. There is no monthly bill. You can simply open your mouth and talk. Through prayer, we offer our worship to God, and it helps us see life from God's perspective. We are servants. God is our God. And in this teaching, Jesus highlights 5 critical components to prayer. Let me share them with you quickly. First, we have to keep it personal, keep it simple, keep it confident, keep it up. And when you do, God will keep God's promises. We have to keep it personal. Prayer is intimate. Nobody understood this better than Jesus. It says he often stole away to private places to pray. Jesus was saying, do not disturb. And like Jesus, I hope each and every one of us has a certain place where when we go to that place, everybody knows, do not disturb. This clearly indicates it's praying time. It may be your closet, your bedroom, your bathroom. For me, it was every morning on the A train in New York City. What can I tell you? But everybody needs to have a certain place because it's intimate. It means you're serious about having a relationship with God and getting to know God better. You know, when we want to have a private conversation with someone, the first thing we do is look for a quiet spot. So you can focus all your energies on that person. And that's what we ought to do with God, because prayer is not just talking to God, it's also hearing what God has to say. I call that meditation. The only thing I like doing more than praying is meditating and hearing what God has to say. The other thing is you have to keep it personal. And you have to keep it simple. When you pray, say, Our Father, which art in heaven, and so on. In the Lord's Prayer, Jesus was saying a simple prayer of exaltation, reverence, provision, forgiveness, and protection. And guess what? He did it in 5 sentences. Jesus warns his disciples about praying as hypocrites do, babbling on with big words. And I think this is where we get it confused. Let me help you out. God could care less about how eloquent you are. You could be from Yale or jail, the White House or the outhouse. It's not about what's in your head. It's about what's in your heart. We tend to think the more prolific, the more fancy we are, the more God will incline his ear to hear us. Not so. Can I tell you something? Something as simple as Lord have mercy is a prayer. I've used it many times. Or if you can't muster up anything else, you can do a prayer. Do you know what that is? That's a Lord, Sometimes that's prayer enough. Keep it simple. I like the way the old saints used to say it. I had a little talk with Jesus. Told him about all my troubles. He heard my fainted cries, answer by and by. Prayer doesn't have to be complicated, but it should be confident. Jesus tells this story about how someone comes to his neighbor asking for bread that's not even for him, but it's for a friend who just stopped by. That is bold. And that's how it is when we pray boldly to God. God doesn't have to do anything for us, but God is compelled to bless us when we pray boldly. God doesn't want us to be timid in our prayer life. And what's interesting to note here is a man asks his friend for bread. He has nothing. But by the end of this passage, his friend gives him everything he needs. That is the power of prayer. Finally, and probably the most important thing to do is keep it up. When I of picking, I can just smell the sweetness of the apples before I even put my hands on them. And it's like you touch the apple and it falls right off. My favorite, though, is when you don't have to pick anything. The apples are so ripe and ready, they fall off the tree on their own. All you have to do is grab your basket and start picking up the apples on the ground. But every once in a while, Santita, there's an apple that won't come down unless I shake the tree. And I can't shake it once. I have to shake it over and over again because I really want that apple. And the more I focus on that apple, the harder I shake the tree. The more I want the apple, the harder I shake the tree. I have to tell you all this morning that there's some seasons in life when God's blessings are well within your reach. It seems like the moment you ask, it's right there. Other times, the favor is so abundant, you don't even have to ask. blessings just seem to rain down and fall from the sky. All you got to do is pick them up. But every once in a while, there's a blessing that won't come down unless you shake the tree over and over again. The more you want blessings, the more you shake the tree. The more you focus on the blessing, the more you have to shake the tree. And I did shaking the tree because I heard that the effectual, fervent prayer of the righteous avails much. Eager prayer, persistent prayer, fanatical prayer, sick prayer. So this more keep on shaking the tree because eventually the blessing will come down. Pray without ceasing. And I guarantee you, God, when you keep it up, God will keep God's promises. And you know why God answers prayer? Not just to meet our needs, but to meet them in such a way that brings glory to God's name. That's why Jesus says, hallowed be thy name. In other words, when God's people pray, God's reputation is at stake. God will keep God's promises. Didn't he say it? Ask and it shall be given. Seek and ye shall find. Knock and it will be open to you. So I dare you today. Keep it intimate, keep it simple, keep it confident, and keep it up. Oh, what peace we often forfeit. Oh, what needless pain we bear. All because we do not carry everything to God in prayer. Amen and ashe.
Amen. And so it is. I love it. Thank you for that. I needed that today. I needed that word today. And I know Meddy needed that word today. She said she loves your preaching. Deborah Thomas said, oh, yes, everybody. Thank you. What did you, Effie Ross? You said, shake that devil out. Get your blessings. I love Effie Roth. She's one of the legends here in radio in Chicago. Just generally in radio, but no one has been bigger in church radio for decades. And we love Effie, and I just have to publicly thank Effie for all of her, for her friendship and for getting up. She has a very full schedule, but she gets up and she always pulls me up on things that I need to be doing. And I just love my sister beloved. And I love you, Pastor Tisha Williams.
I love you too. Thank you.
God for you today. You know it. Another sister beloved here, Dr. Deborah Verholden, Michigan State University, Associate Dean of the School of Public Health, and she's so brilliant. They brought her from Johns Hopkins so she could build the School of Public Health for them. Well, the president spoke last night, Dr. Deborah Verholden, and he gave us 2 target dates, May 1st and July 4th. It seems that we are on the way back to normal. What did you think about what he said last night?
I didn't hear what he had to say last night because I was busy educating my people last night. I was literally doing live talks until about 11 o'clock. So it's my understanding May 4th is the date by which he wants all of the the administration eligibility, May 1st, to open up. Is that correct?
Yeah, May 1st, he wants everybody to get the, that's right. Everybody will be able, all adults will have access.
Will be eligible.
Right.
Well, having access and being eligible are different, but we can talk about that. And then what's the June date?
Let me not misstate. He said we'll be eligible. He will be
eligible. Yes, exactly.
Okay, excuse me.
Because we don't have access right now. We don't have access right now for people who are 80 years old, with transportation, zero hesitancy, good Wi-Fi, a telephone, and all of that. So there are people right now who are eligible but don't have access and can't either get on a wait list or can't make their way off of a wait list. And what's the June date? What's that supposed to signal?
July 4th, when we can have small gatherings
July
for the holiday. No worries. No worries. So please, because you're educating the people. And this, we're going to hear about this all day long. And you know, as these things do, the story's going to evolve. July 4th is when we're supposed to be able to have small gatherings for the 4th of July holiday. So, but
I'm just curious based on what, and literally the only that the people who are eligible right now are going to be, that want the vaccine, are going to be able to get it. I think he owes us to explain
1 minute.
what he's going to do to ensure that all of this next wave of resources that come out related to this pandemic are actually fairly and equitably availed to all people. Because we know with the CARES Act money, that did not happen. Big businesses, white-owned large businesses, up the lion's share of the payroll protection dollars, leaving small businesses,
30.
leaving minority-owned businesses, women-owned businesses to figure it out on their own, and they have been closing and going under at record numbers.
Very quickly,
That's
Nina is pushing
15.
mandate equity for you. I've got about 10 seconds.
10.
What do people need to do?
Go to mandateequity.org.
5.
Sign the open letter. It's a beginning, not an end.
All
Our
right.
elected officials need to operate at their highest calling. Their highest calling.
Okay.
Please make some laws and put some enforcement behind it. That's your highest calling, and that's what we picked you, voted for you to do. So keep your hope to yourself. I'll generate my own hope. You write some laws and get them enforced.
Mandateequity.org. Thank you, Nina, for pushing it like you said that you would. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a minute. I'm sorry, Steve. You know, I am my own producer here, but I am also my engineer, and I'm having connectivity issues here. So I am trying to keep the time and come back up on StreamYard because I kept going down. I'm having trouble staying up on. I'm maintaining my connection today. A lot of trouble. So we're going to figure that out. Is Pastor Williams still with us? Okay. Well, you know what we're going to talk about?
She is. You can talk to her now.
Pastor Williams?
I love her, by the way.
You can say who she is.
She always got a word that makes her. I literally, as soon as I heard her, I'm not even.
How can we hear you on Sundays? How can we hear you?
Oh, yes. So you can go to, we have a YouTube page, the First Baptist Church of Bridgehampton YouTube page, and you can see every one of our services back until now, of last year till now. Yeah.
I mean, you have a professional in your life, really.
Oh, wow. To God be the glory. Thank you so much. That means so much.
Everything God has done. How can I give thanks? All.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Oh, my goodness. Just thank you.
You're all are blessed. Thank you.
You've blessed us, and we're supposed to bless each other. That's part of the job, right? So
I am because you are.
Oh, look. Well, you know, we're going and you all are free part of this. What I'm doing is I'm reactions to the last night, but we're going to move really heavily on the vaccines. LeBron under pressure to reveal his status, Dr. Deborah Holden. He said, when asked if he was going to get the vaccine, he said, you know, that's a private matter between my family and I. And now you have the sports pundits and other pundits jumping on him. They're calling him an anti-vaxxer. They're saying, you know, are you afraid of a needle? And he's like, you know, this is a married man with children.
Yeah.
And this is not, he doesn't owe that to the public. You know, I mean,
he's a grown man.
He's a grown man.
I wouldn't even entertain this now. He's a full-blown grown man.
But
he got full-blown grown man status.
But that's the game that they're playing with us. I mean, because now that people have been talking about vitamin D, for example, now you have people who are saying vitamin D doesn't make a difference. And I'm like, no, it's because y'all ain't making no money off of it. And they need to stop this. See, this is what increases the mistrust and the distrust. When you don't give people the space to be grown. I mean, Americans don't do mandates and no choice well. At least you have to give people the choice, and then they feel like they are free.
30 seconds.
Do we have
Patil and McKee, yes, we have them.
Okay, always let me know. Thank you so much. But let me bring them up. And so you all feel free. I'm going to go to Patillo and McKee, but Pastor Williams, you should weigh in
15.
too because you speak to people all the time. And I think what the president said was very, very important. And our reaction to it, and it was very important that
5.
Dr. Verholden was actually working. I think that's
Yeah.
important.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show, WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station here in Chicago, and the voice of progressive Minnesota, AM 950 radio. All my brothers and sisters up in Minneapolis, St. Paul, sending you much, much, much love today. And thank you for bearing with me as today I'm having some connectivity issues, but I keep coming back up. And so thank you all for staying there. If we are dropped on Facebook and on all of these other platforms, please go to WCPT820.com, WCPT820, and to AM950radio.com, AM50, AM950 radio, so that you can get a sense of the show. I don't want you to miss anything. Don't want you to miss anything. In the meantime, please continue to like and share, and go over to my YouTube page and like and subscribe, please. Santita Jackson Show. Thank you for your support. Everybody, what did you make of President Biden's speech last night? He gave us 2 target dates. He said May 1st, July 4th. May 1st, July 4th. May 1st, they will lift all restrictions across all of the states, enabling anyone of any age to get the vaccine. Dr. Deborah Holden said, but will they have access? That is a question. We didn't hear a lot of discussion about that. But July 4th, he said, we will be able to have gatherings. Now, 10% of Americans have been fully vaccinated. 10%. That would be about 33, 34 million people. Are those numbers low? Are they high? And what do you think? Will we be able to vaccinate, or will do 330 plus million people want to be vaccinated? I mean, how do we continue to really plow through this pandemic? Joining Dr. Deborah Verholden and Pastor Tisha Williams, who gave us such a brilliant word, and of course, mandate.org. You need to sign on to that letter because Dr. Deborah Verholden is pushing for us to have equal access to equal high quality health care and vaccines in particular at this time. We've got, of course, Dr. Dwight McKee, noted sociologist, and of course, Attorney Robert Patillo, host of his own radio show on WAOK on Sundays from 1 to 4. I'm going to be joining him talking about the women of the civil rights movement this Sunday. And, of course, he is the Southeastern Regional Director for Rainbow Push. Let me start with you, Attorney Patillo. What did you think of the president's speech last night? What did he say? What did you hear?
Well, I think the most important thing was what he didn't say, which is he didn't give himself credit. He didn't start talking about the China virus. He didn't start with all the hyperbole and obfuscation that we heard from the previous administration. It was just a normal, boring presidential address. And I think that's what the American people need. After living in a game show for half a decade almost, I think a lot of people were just amazed to see just a normal presidential address again. So I think that was the biggest takeaway. I think the empathy that he showed for the families who have lost people, for the sacrifices that everyone has made, particularly first responders and our essential workers, those frontline people who have made often the ultimate sacrifice. It was good to see that level of empathy from a president. Now, on the actual policy positions, I wish he actually hadn't given dates, because whenever you give dates out, then all you're doing is setting yourself up for, if it doesn't come true, just like when Trump said we'll be open by Easter, this will be 8 weeks, 30 days to stop the spread. It starts reducing public acceptance if something happens. So whereas I do understand that he wanted to give people light at the end of the tunnel, I don't want him to give people license to take their foot off the gas pedal, because what we saw in Atlanta for the All-Star game, what we are seeing in Florida right now for the spring break, are people, particularly young folks, who could give not one care about the virus, do not care about masks, do not care about social distancing. And so this sets us up for more spikes. And if people start thinking, well, the vaccine is going to do all the work for us, I'm afraid they'll make people far less responsible because everyone is tired of it at this point and ready to move on with their lives. But we can't do so until we actually meet those benchmarks. So overall, I give the speech a solid B. But I do have some trepidation about the concept of giving these dates certain, or because it's really setting yourself up for not meeting those deadlines.
Dwight McKee, what did you make of the speech?
Well, I always follow Dr. Deborah's lead on situations like this. And so, I think it was a pretty standard speech. I think the goal is to stop the bleeding. I'm with this, that I think that it's always a danger to give. The biggest fear is that it gives the illusion, the delusion that we can go back. The world really did change last year at this time. And if we think that we can go back to the world we once had, I
How he's presenting a point against the virus and not other. I'm a pastor, so I always think of things in church terms. When Biden won this election, what he really got was a split church. Everybody was not for him. While 50% of the country was for him, there were 50% who are not. And so I think what's key here and what he's trying to do is make us focus on not each other as the enemy, but this common enemy, which is the virus. And also that point of empathy and warmth that we got from him last night in acknowledging just the death and the family. And so I really appreciated that. And I agree also about giving dates. There's one thing we don't do in the church. When you want to thank somebody, you stay away from specific names for fear that you might forget someone and never live it down. This is that same thing right here. When you start throwing out dates, we're going to hold you to that. And so I hope they can deliver.
Dr. Deborah Verholden, you were teaching last night, as you're doing, teaching, preaching, reaching. You're trying to help us to understand. We still understand COVID-19 and what it is that we need to do to guard ourselves against it. And you were explaining the vaccine and all of that, everything. So what do you make of these two dates? I mean, because you asked some pertinent questions that, quite frankly, we didn't ask. You were like, okay, access, thank you for the correction. Access and availability are two different concepts. You said, yeah, the vaccine's available now. We just don't have access. So talk to me.
Yeah, just simply expanding the eligibility list will make no difference because you got all these Black and brown people disproportionately stuck in the maze of not one wait list now, but multiple wait lists. And on each of those wait lists, they're stuck in the bottleneck. Again, he's the president of the United States. It's not for him to stand up and give us false hope with dates that he has nothing behind. There's nothing he can say that would justify why these dates even are useful. So what? He can say the whole universe is eligible right now. It wouldn't make one bit of difference. So just doing something like saying everybody's now eligible, or by May 1, everybody will be eligible, won't make one bit of difference. What that will do, however, make everybody eligible by May 1, then we officially have no line jumpers. We can't even get the people right now that we said were important. This is public health. We're supposed to prioritize the people who are at greatest risk for exposure and greatest risk for a bad outcome. He opens this whole thing up by May 1st. What he's done is made line jumping the law. Where is the law that's going to mandate that the people who are entitled to this actually are able to get it? He's a lawmaker. He's the commander in chief. The nerve of him. And I don't understand why nobody except me is up in arms. He has a lot more power than what he is using. He has put nothing in place to say, if you want this resource, big box store, pharmacy, or state, you will ensure that the people's arms fit. Want in you will have a data in place. Will be in my people every week. What number of Black people are getting this? What number of Hispanic people? Percentage of your frontline healthcare workers are vaccinated, and if you don't do it, you won't get it. People are able to drive. Have to drive to another state and get it then. That's what he should be doing. This is the easy road. He owes us way more than this. To me, he's very status quo. I'm embarrassed. I wish your Pearl was on this call, because you know what she would say? I told y'all. What he has done nothing, creating all these different task force. Somebody, one of my good colleagues, who says, I don't understand why you're not happy with what he's doing. Look at this new grant announcement that's out. Those grants shove the burden of equity further onto community. They're going to give us a couple of dollars and make community and people like me try to do the heavy lift of getting this vaccine into people's arms equitably. There's no federal pull. Where's the law that says it's a requirement? If equity matters, where's the law that says you've got to resolve historical inequity? No, instead, the answer is we're just going to make it available to everybody. Now everybody is eligible. It's giving way to inequity. And you got to mandate it. If not, this we're going to get what we saw with affirmative action. Affirmative action was supposed to level the playing field for everybody. You know who the beneficiaries of affirmative action were? Middle-class white women. They hit the jackpot. It was their lucky day. It really matters. It's got to be mandated. It's got to be written. It's got to be enforced. Nobody gives a good goddamn one about equity. Not President Biden, not any of his task force, not any of that. They're a bunch of, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and call them well-meaning, which I barely want to even say that because I don't know what they mean or what their intentions are. I really can only judge them by what they do. And everything that they've done has been more of the same. You're a legislator. Legislate.
Everybody, I think we got a mic drop on that. We're having some connectivity issues. If you want, I know you want to watch this, but go to WCPT820.com, WCPT820.com, so that you can hear this uninterrupted. And then after the show, go to WCPT820.com /Santita so that you can hear the podcast of this show. Always do that. WCPT820.com /Santita after the show so that you'll be able to hear the podcast. And of course, AM950radio.com, AM950radio.com. So as we are having these connectivity issues, you should not be able to miss a word. Well, Attorney Robert Patillo, equity. She is saying, wait a minute now, we heard status quo last night. People, the vaccines availability is one thing. Access to them is something else. And to me, I would take it out even a little further, Dr. Deb. You can get the vaccine, but if you get sick, how are you going to pay to get well? Our Attorney Patillo, what do you say?
Yeah, I can agree more with Dr. Furholder because it has to be part of a holistic approach. And yesterday was kind of a cheer up, last full speech. Many people need it, but I'm not really worried about the speech. We've all been listening to speeches our whole lives. I'm interested in what's behind it. What are the policy initiatives that are going to come from it? What springs out of it? You have these deadlines that you've put out there, but what makes you think you're going to get it? We still have a humongous amount of distrust of the vaccine in the Black community for good reason. Normally a vaccine takes a decade to roll out. So most of that is to see what the long-term side effects are. And we have, 6 months of information. So we really are flying blind as to if this makes your finger fall off in 3 years, because we just don't know. And they have to articulate that and explain that to many people in the community, in addition to making sure that everyone who wants to have it has access to it, and that there's not discrimination around it. Because what we're already seeing is music venues saying you have to be vaccinated to come. Airlines are talking about having a vaccine passport in order to be able to travel, those sorts of things. So for people who do not get vaccinated, we can't turn them class citizens. Seasonal is the way the flu is, and if we're going to be coming back for coronavirus vaccines and boosters every year, every couple of years, and what the real long-term ramifications are of this. So maybe that doesn't all get done in a primetime address, but they are conversations that have to be had. And the American people aren't as dumb as we think they are. If you give them information, allow them to process it, they will and make decisions on their own.
Well, Pastor Williams, you said this is a slippery slope when we start mandating. And when we start withdrawing rights, have you had the vaccine? Have you not had the vaccine? Because and when I'm listening to when you heard him last night, it was like, wait a minute, I don't think people are getting room here. And Americans, we just saw the Capitol attacked January 6th, and I promise you, I think this is part of that. Americans are feeling like they have no money and they have fewer civil liberty options. That's problematic. It seems like we are on a slippery slope. And no equity. Everybody mandateequity.org, mandateequity.org, because that appears to be the thing. Pastor Williams, you know what you're looking at with your congregation. People are hurting out here.
People are hurting, and I'm extremely concerned. One of the things that we've tried to do here, to Dr. Verholden's point, and I absolutely love your passion, and I think that's what we need. We need more Dr. Verholdens in the world, so that when we hear these broad messages, we have leaders like her who will sort of flesh out what we really need to be doing, make it more specific as to what we need to do and how we galvanize our people. What we're trying to do here is really make sure that our seniors are being seen first, that our seniors are getting the vaccine and getting what they need. And I'm very concerned about the vaccine. I'm concerned about equity. But you know what, as a pastor, do you know what I'm also concerned about? I'm concerned about the emotional and mental well-being of our people in a time like this. We've been through a lot over this last year, and I'm very concerned about the compounding trauma that I see happen. Over the last year, it's been like every time we get out, something pulls us back in. And so we've been dealing with so many different traumas, and I'm concerned about the mental and emotional well-being of our people as well as the physical well-being of our people.
And what about
because none of us are going to get out of this unscathed.
Nobody.
We are all going to suffer some level of post-traumatic stress disorder, and I really hope that we will have access to the mental care that we need as well as the medical care that we need.
Well, my concern is that we're really not in a pandemic crisis. We're in a health crisis. And even if we solve this pandemic issue, we go back to a situation where blacks are the 10 years will live 10 to 15 to 20, and some 20 years less than their white neighbors, and have real viable health care at any level. We are more chronic diseases and more vulnerable. One of the reasons that the pandemic has been such the Black community is because we have so many underlying conditions already because we're already in a health crisis and nobody's really speaking of that. Dr. Frold, Dr. Deborah, can you speak to that for a minute for me?
I'm sorry, I had to catch my breath.
Well, no, and I'm glad that you did. I mean, just generally speaking, we are in a health crisis. We do not have equal access to equal high quality health care, which is part of the reason we're so vulnerable in the first place. Black people, brown people, poor people. And even now, you can get the vaccine, but if you have kickback from the vaccines, and all vaccines affect different people differently. Most people can't go to the emergency room and get any health care. They can't afford it. If they get COVID-19, they can't afford the hospital visit or the medicines. I mean, what is that? We have Dwight McKee's
This is a
point
crisis indeed.
Yes, we got a bigger problem than this pandemic. As shocking as as shocking as that may sound, we got a health crisis in America, Dr. Deborah Verholden.
It wasn't the problem with it, and yes, we do have a health crisis, but the reason it's a little bit more than that is because this health crisis has impacted every major sector of our society. It's impacted how we educate our children. It's impacted how people are able to earn a living. It's impacted how people are able to move about in their community. It's impacted how people are able to interact with one another. And again, I go back to the point of when you really look at equity, and when I say mandate equity, I want to be real clear. In no way am I talking about forcing people to do anything, individuals. I'm not talking about mandating that people get the vaccine because I don't believe in that. I believe this is people's choice. I'm talking about putting up the guardrails to say for people who do want it, that they have fair and equitable access to it. See, the problem is that we have a health crisis, but we're not even bringing good public health strategies to the table to deal with them. And now it has spilled over into all of these other sectors, in my opinion, really just pulled the curtain back and shined the light on what was already there. See, this is a system that was by its very design built to keep some down and to keep others not just on top, but allow them to keep going higher and higher and higher. The system is working exactly as it was designed. It's no surprise to me that many of our wealthier businesses and many of the wealthiest in our nation have only added to their wealth during the pandemic, while others who were designed to be kept down their businesses have fallen off the map. They've been evicted. They're in bankruptcy or foreclosure right now. And health and wealth are inextricably linked. They're inextricably linked. So to not deal with the economic implications of this health crisis is a problem for me. But it's the system working as it was designed.
But I think the title is in your initiative, Mandate Equity. Pastor Williams?
I just wanted to say one of the things that I have found over the course of this pandemic and that I have been saying is that COVID is a snitch. It has not started any problems. It has only revealed them. It has done a really good job of pulling the cloak off of the things that we've been trying to hide for a very long time. COVID is a snitch.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Hey, everybody, you know what? Let me tell you something. I want you to stay right here because we got a lot to talk about today. Now, LeBron James, and I want you to respond to this. LeBron James said he wants to keep his vaccine status private. He said, I want to, this is something that I'm going to discuss with my family. This is a married man with 3 children. He has relatives that he cares for and a whole network of people who work for him. He said, so I'm going to do that. Now everybody doing the pile-on. Hey, you need to, and more than that, really under a lot of pressure. And he's been holding on. So I want to know what you think about that. And what do you think about mandate equity? She's not talking about vaccines as much as she is mandating equity to the vaccines, and quite frankly, mandating access to equal high quality health care. Really. That ought to be the law.
Yeah.
Dr. Deb, I got 30 seconds before we go. It ought to be the law.
Yeah, what about What about equity and all these other resources? What about equity and payroll protection? What about there's X amount of money that has to go to small businesses, X amount of money that has to go to minority-owned businesses or women-owned businesses. This notion, if it matters, put the guardrails up. Your legislators, legislate. President, you're
1 minute.
Executive. Ensure enforcement of those laws. They've all, to me, dropped the ball on doing their actual job. And instead, they get to be heroes. They get to be the good guys and get up and stand on TV and give us false hope. I just want to make sure that people really understand. If he, in fact, opens up the eligibility list by May 1st, then everything that's happening is fair and legal. Because then everybody will have a right to
30.
There's no jumping the line. It's you now have a right to be in line. And how can that those who are most they need, that they're protected? So I think he made
15.
That made him a good guy, but it doesn't. To me, it makes him a guy who didn't think it through.
Well, you know what? I think what they're also dealing with is pushing against those people who are still resistant to the vaccine. Most people who push back against the vaccine are white Republicans. And there's still a lot of skepticism surrounding the vaccine in the black community. Talk about it. Stop playing. Stop building all these other false constructs around that, because that's real. Talk about it. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in a moment. I want to know what you think about LeBron James and his pushback on, hey, this is a family decision. What do you think? Or should it be a public decision? Santita Jackson Show in just a few minutes. Well, you guys, I'm sitting up here freezing, so keep talking amongst yourselves. I'm trying to work. I'm trying to stay on Facebook. Oh my gosh. And all these other streams. Everybody, please go to WCPT820.com, WCPT820.com, or AM950radio.com, AM950radio.com. And so I want to know what you think about this conversation today. Boy, you know, you just give it to God and let God work it out. Because, you know, I might start the conversation in one direction and Attorney Patillo and Dwight McKee, you know, it goes into a different place, a necessary place, but a place. Because no one's really talking about what Dr. Deborah Verholden talked about, which is that, you know, that now this opens up the process for everybody just to go. I mean, everybody to get the vaccine. But I'm wondering how are people pursuing this vaccine with this kind of vigor? Because tucked behind all of this are these stories on this the skepticism that remains. You know, because all of my white friends who've had appointments and they've gone into the black community, gone into the black neighborhoods to get the vaccines, they tell me they don't have a problem getting in. And they're not line jumpers. They were able to get the appointment here where they went, and that was that. There's a lot going on here that we're not that as on the table for discussion, and it ought to be.
I think Santita,
that's just it.
I think we.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No.
I was saying that I think we also have to take responsibility for each other as well. Ubuntu are, and you know, especially our community leaders, pastors, so on and so forth. We have to really be proactive in making sure people are getting what they need. Calling our people. Did you get your vaccine yet? Calling our seniors. I'll go with you. Does anyone need a ride? Really have to take care of each other and indicate nobody's taking care of us, so we have to take care of each other. And I think we can't be afraid to be people get what they need and not stopping until they do.
Dr. Deborah Verholden.
This is a moment.
I do, and that's right, and get well.
Yeah,
you know, because we're not there. This is exposed. What did you say? It's a snitch.
It's a snitch. I love it.
Oh
COVID
my.
told on all y'all. Yep.
I'm grateful for you, Dr. Verholden. I really am, because you make things so clear and so plain. So no, this is what it is, and I love that.
Well, you know what? I need
And
you to, with your church and with some other churches, we need to organize so that we can get people to sign this mandateequity.org.
mm-hmm.
So if you would, I'm going to send you the link, and you should talk to
Please
Dr.
do.
Deborah Verholden so that you can feel, so that you can know, so you can know what it is and make the decision, because we do need to mandate equity, not just
Yes.
access, but
Mm-hmm.
equity. So we've got Attorney Fancher
But it's
on
equity in all of it. All of it.
and
Equity
everything.
in all of it. Even the money.
Mm-hmm.
What Minister
Yeah.
Farrakhan is talking about. Because he said, I don't trust you. And he said, give us our own resources. Whatever choice you make that serves you and whatever choices make sense to you, I'm happy for you. I literally believe people need to have choice, and we shouldn't blame or shame people that choose no.
Mm-hmm.
Right? What I don't want is people to make choices that don't serve them based on bad information. But a lot of people have all the information. They full well understand, and they've chosen no. And that's their right. And I believe that's okay. But we've got so many people who said yes that are on a wait list or can't figure out how to get on or get off of that wait list, who have been stuck for weeks, some of them months. That's my problem. So we can continue to deal with hesitancy, but if we did nothing for the hesitant population and just dealt with the people who said yes and made sure that they had fair and equitable access, we'd be doing that well into May.
Well,
That's all
also,
I'm saying.
no, I'm with you on that, but also give people access to the information, which we don't have access to. People are having other discussions
Yeah.
about other therapeutics around the world, and it's working in other places. Let's have those discussions here. You can't just give, not you, but one cannot just give all of this space to the pharmaceutical giants. That's not working. That's not working for me. I mean, and because you're
1 minute.
people are being deplatformed. Conversations, we're not allowed to have certain conversations. That becomes a problem. And it's not even hesitancy. People don't trust. That's what they don't want to put that in the headline. Attorney Mark Fancher, how are you?
Oh, I'm fine. Thank you. Good morning.
Oh, hon, look, we've got a spirited discussion because of course, Dr. Deborah Holden has been throwing bombs today. And of course, you're joining Attorney Robert Patillo and Dwight McKee and Pastor Tisha Williams. If you want to
30.
get inspired and hear someone with a profound anointing, this is your person. I'm going to send you a link so that you can hear her
Thank you.
sermons. She is too many things.
15.
You want to hear her preach. You really, really do. She will bless you. She will bless you.
10.
So stand by.
Thank you so much.
Oh, no, thank you.
5.
We're going to talk a little bit more about Biden, but I want to go into.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. Boy, what a conversation we're having this morning on President Biden's speech and on LeBron James. He said that he would like to keep his vaccination when he wants to keep it private. He's facing a lot of criticism for that. What do you think about that? Call me. Text 773 763 9278. You can call or text me at that number. I'm Santita Jackson, coming to you from the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, WCPT 820 in Chicago, and AM 950 radio, Minneapolis, St. Paul, the voice of progressive Minnesota. And we've been having connectivity issues today, but my morning stars are hanging in there with me. Thank you so much, everybody. Santita Jackson and friends on the on Facebook, and of course, the Santita Jackson Show on YouTube. And everybody, if you're having any connectivity issues as you're watching the show, please go to WCPT820.com, WCPT820.com, or AM950radio.com, AM950radio.com, and so that you can hear the whole show without interruption, hear it, get the podcast, WCPT820.com/Santita, WCPT820.com/Santita. Let's get to some of these headlines so that we can get to the rest of this conversation. In Chicago, we're going to have a high of 53 degrees, and it will be cloudy, although it's very bright right now. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 45 degrees, sunny. The Dow closed up 188 points yesterday. The NASDAQ closed up 329 points. The S&P 500 closed up 23 points. Well, before President Biden spoke to the nation last night, he signed the $1.9 trillion stimulus or relief bill, the American Rescue Package, into law yesterday. Indeed, he said this historic legislation is about rebuilding that backbone of the country. People will get their first round stimulus payments, relief payments, really, everybody, of up to $1,400 if you make $75,000 or less as a single tax. Call me, text me, 773-763 WCPT, 773-763-9278. I mean, he is being urged to rethink this private stance. I mean, a lot of people are saying that, um, First of all, your speech last night, and then from James.
Well, I said it was in many ways to have someone who's the head of come across act head of state and like an adult and all of those things. I continue to have concerns about and the limitations that they have and the general incapacity and we live under to for the needs of the people, but things could be much worse, in terms of a government response to this crisis, and we've seen it. It's good to at least have something that's moving in the right direction. So, in that sense, it was somewhat gratifying during these times. But with respect to LeBron James, I know that all of us have our opinions. We all have our preferences about what people should do with their personal lives. But in the end, I think that these are their personal lives. And none of us, I think, are in a position to judge others and what they do with their private affairs, their medical care, and their health, and those kinds of things. And I think we ought to just stay in our own lane.
Mm. So everybody call me 773-763 WCPT 773-763-9278. What do you think about that? He's under a tremendous amount of pressure to not keep it private. And even more, people are saying that you need to take the vaccine and you need to tell everybody about it. What do you think about that? What do you think? LeBron James is one of the most admired men in all of sport, indeed, one of the most admired young men in the country, if not the world. He could have a tremendous impact upon this process. So, what do you think? What do you think? I
But
want
it
you to
all,
call me. Dwight McKee?
but yeah, it also amounts to a man who gets paid millions of dollars of free endorsement to the pharmaceutical companies. And if if they want to know his opinion that bad, then they should pay him like Coca-Cola would have to pay him. But you know what I find interesting in all of this? That they are pestering him about these vaccine shots. But with all this controversy, why they're not asking him how he got the name King James and what does that represent? How did a black man in Cleveland, why is he named after, symbolically named after a white man years ago in England who was also part of the family? They're not rich. Nobody's really asked why they called him was and what there was a relationship. I find it remarkably interesting.
Well, many of us don't know who King James is unless it's the Bible. And we're not curious about that. Come on, Dwight. You get a little deep.
It is the same. It is the same King James who colonized America, who had slaves working for him, who was the King James that wrote the Bible, who's also one of the progeny in the royal family. So Queen Elizabeth and them, all of those are the great grandchildren of that King James.
Well,
and yet they don't raise that issue or ask that question because that's off limits. But your private life is on limits. Very interesting to me.
Well, it is very interesting. So, Pastor Williams, what say you?
I think that's a very interesting perspective, one I had never considered.
Dwight does that, so pardon him. He always does that. Now he has a new name, the Dean. Now that's what Bab has dubbed you the Dean, Dwight. So there you go. You're no longer, you can be Dr. D, but you're the Dean. So there you go.
Right. Well, I think that whether it's his influence as just LeBron James or King James, he does have a lot of influence, and I think that perhaps the sports industry is banking on that influence to influence more people to take the vaccine, and I can understand that. However, this is a very slippery slope when you begin to pry in people's personal decisions, more specifically their medical decisions. He does not have to divulge whether or not he wants to have the vaccine. It is a personal family decision, and we have to be careful in pressuring people to divulge this type of information, because if the pressure is put on him and he decides to share it, where else can that pressure be put on people? Now, can the workplace put pressure on people to take this vaccine and divulge whether or not they've had it? We're not, and this, because this opens a can of worms for every area of status in our lives. Are people going to be forced to, divulge their sexual status, their marital status, their financial status? This is a slippery slope. And I think they ought to let this man make a private decision. That is his right. And I don't push back on him for keeping it private. He should, and everyone else should.
Attorney Patillo, what say you?
I find it interesting because I thought white folks told him to shut up and dribble. I thought athletes were supposed to stay out of social justice and controversy. I thought the only thing he was supposed to do was bounce the ball and keep his mouth shut. And now all of a sudden y'all need him. No. Now all of a sudden y'all need him. Hey, well, why don't you get up? Before y'all said shut up and dribble when he was talking about black folks and our issues. The old president said, drag those SOBs off the field as they try to kneel down. So suddenly y'all we need you to help everybody take the shot. The hypocrisy of America and the fact that the remains a commodity to be bought and sold. If LeBron decides that he wants to help the people and take the shot publicly, then by all means do so. If he decides he does not want to, then by all means continue doing so. And the folks running their mouth about it, me and LeBron are about 3 months apart. I was born in September '84. He was born in December '84. He's a 4-time NBA champion, 2-time Olympic gold medalist. I have a Sunday radio show, so we're about even on things. So I think that everyone should just have. Yeah, exactly. We're basically even. It's neck and neck at this point. It's not a competition. We're neck and neck. But everybody has the right to have their own personal medical privacy. And LeBron don't want to tell y'all, then by all means don't tell him.
Why did you say why?
And I admire LeBron. I admire his manhood and his fortitude and his unwillingness to let other people define him. To me, it's a major, major, major tribute to who this man became.
Dr. Deborah Holden? Is she still there, or are you on mute? Well, let me go back to you, Attorney Fancher. What say you? He has been told to shut up and dribble and to not involve himself in these issues of uplift for the Black community and for poor people, but Black people specifically.
Yeah. Back in the 70s when he could say such things, but he said that there was the good N word, the bad N word, and the super N word. And the bad N word was who we all know. He was someone who was rebellious, recalcitrant, either politically, or he could be a bad N word because he dared to taboos, and crossing the racial suspects and things like that. The good N word, I don't even need to define that. I think we all know what that is. Who a bad N word, but in the process of being a bad, he made lots of money for the white man. And so because he was making lots of money for the white man, he freed a lot of things couldn't do. And so while LeBron but they still reserve the right in their minds to control this man.
Seven, eight. Let's talk about this today. Let me go to Chris from Wheaton. Chris, what's on your mind?
Good morning, Santita. How are you?
It's wonderful hearing your voice.
Good to be. It's been a minute. I apologize because I keep having going to this public school. I call in and then I feel bad because by the time I'm going to come around to me, but the discussions have been so fruitful and so outstanding. I just had to sit back and enjoy. So I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Well, my little input on this is, I appreciate the attorney pointing out the advocacy that LeBron James taken part in. He has been an outstanding social justice advocate, and I think a lot of people have underplayed that in an attempt to classify him as the shut up and dribble type of dude. He's really not. He's been a great advocate, and I appreciate him for that. But in the situation where it comes to his personal choice of whether to get vaccinated or not, I actually, at my public school, which will remain unnamed, there's a lot of pressure to open back up at full capacity. We've been open the whole year, and it's been AV days type of thing. So the days are split, so we have half capacity every other day. But we made a good faith effort to come back. We've been back. We never stopped. But yesterday I got an email demanding to know if I have it and if I plan on getting it. And that definitely made me feel some type of way, because not because I'm some anti-vax weirdo necessarily, but because that is a personal medical decision, and they're essentially demanding to know, and I refuse to answer it. And then they're hitting me up and being like, "Hey man, you got to let us know. Like, have you got this? Are you going to get it?" So I can understand why Mr. James is feeling that way about it. There are many questions about this, and I would push back a little bit on the belief that it's your typical, baby brain, like right-winger that is a little bit unnerved by this vaccine, because there are multiple vaccines, different types of efficacy, different functions that they take part in. Now with the J&J one, it's a different approach. And while I, as a type 1 diabetic, I have the utmost respect and appreciation for medical science, and it saved my life, I would also say that there's some questions out there, and I've seen people that I work with get incredibly sick after they got their first or second shots. And one person I work with got so sick she was out for 2 weeks. So there are some fair questions that are to be asked about this vaccination system. And certainly among my black family, it's very much a question of like trust, safety, and a family decision sort of for the greater good. And so it's a nuanced discussion that needs to be had. That's kind of my only point. But to say that LeBron James is taking part in a situation that many people, if they haven't had this conversation with their workers, with their employers yet, are going to. Like,
1 minute.
For just about every, that's kind of all I got to say about that.
No, you've said a whole lot. I mean, and I think that until we can have this full discussion, Pastor Tisha Williams, First Baptist Church out of Bridgehampton, New York, Attorney Robert Patillo, who has his own radio show on WAOK every Sunday from 1 to 4, Southeastern Regional Director, Rainbow Push, Dwight McKee, Dr. D, also known as the Dean, brilliant sociologist, and of course, Attorney Mark Fancher, National Conference of Black Lawyers. Until we can have this discussion fully, you're going to have hesitancy, you're going to have suspicion. We're not going to be, and until we can talk about equity, equal access to equal high quality health care overall, we're going to continue this. We're going to continue to chase our tails here. I want to know what you think. Should he be able to keep this decision between himself
5
and his family? LeBron James. I'm Santita Jackson. Stay right here. 773-763-WCPT. Back in just a few minutes. And thank you all so much for staying with me today. Please, 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 please. Thank you, Philip. I want you to please like and share. And if you're having any trouble listening because of, these connectivity issues that we're having, please go to WCPT820.com. Please go to WCPT820.com, or maybe you can just play it while you're listening, while you're watching, right? Or, because as it comes in and out. But thank you so much for your patience. You all have been so sweet for sticking with me today. And please go to am950radio.com, am950radio.com. But let me do a sound check. Pastor Williams, we have you?
Yes, I'm here.
Wonderful. Dr. D, we have you, the Dean.
Yeah, I'm here.
You're getting new nicknames. Attorney Robert Patillo, I have you.
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
All right. Attorney Fancher, you're still there?
I'm still here.
All right. Dr. Deborah Furholden, did we lose her, Paul? Paul? Okay. Somebody let me know what's going on in the studio. COVID.
Hey, Mark.
Rules.
Hey, Mark.
How you doing, man? Good.
Good.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. What's your point?
He's too many things. Oh my gosh. Shut up and dribble. Oh my gosh. As long as it's about that.
Don't be asking me for nothing now. You told me to shut up. I'll listen. I'll be in the corner. Don't ask me.
It's so interesting. They're treating this like a draft day decision.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Like it's a draft day
decision. Or a free agent decision. Where is he going? What is he going to choose? No, he doesn't.
Well, it lets you know also
the that's money. Always bothered me about professional sports anyway, is that it's very much like the slave system on some level.
Mm-hmm.
They buy and sell human beings and control them. And
right.
That auction block.
Right.
When the teams start bidding on a person, I cannot watch that. It is so abhorrent to me. It's so insulting. And I'm like, you guys, you ought to feel like you all need to tell them they need to stop this. I'm going to bid on so-and-so. I want him. I'm like, whoa, what is this? Then you got the parents and the family crying and, now we're going to make some money. Wait a minute. These are black bodies that are still commodities, that are still commodified in America. And
your dad used to say that. Mm-hmm. Your dad used to say that the only of the Cavaliers used to confuse only the team with only LeBron.
Yeah, and so people got upset with him for saying that he was treating him like he was a runaway slave.
Mhm.
People got very upset with him for saying that. Um, but I don't know why they got. I mean, I understand why they got upset because
Back
it's
in
just the
30.
truth, But I mean, you're just seeing this black body, but I'm seeing all of these. Um, I mean, if you see the pressure that
15.
he's beginning to get from ESPN, Stephen A. Smith is a really big
10.
name there, and he's urging him to be more transparent with his vaccine decision. I'm like, whoa,
5.
why can't it be private?
But yeah, why does it have to be public? I mean,
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
Hey, everybody. We want to get your opinions, and boy, you all are calling in. So call us at 773-763-WCPT 820 and AM 950 radio. And you know what? We've been having some connectivity issues today, and I want to thank you for staying with me, everybody, so that you can listen to the show in an uninterrupted way. Please go after the show to the podcast. And you should do that every day because all the shows are up there. WCPT820.com/Santita, WCPT820.com/Santita, so that you can hear this show without interruption. Boy, some great points have been made. We're talking with Attorney Robert Patillo, Southeastern Regional Director for Rainbow Push, host of his own show on WAOK on Sundays from 1 to 4 Eastern Standard Time. Of course, Attorney Mark Fancher, brilliant attorney from the National Conference of Black Lawyers, the Dean, also known as Dr. D. Dwight McKee, brilliant sociologist. And of course, we're so glad that you stayed with us, Pastor Tisha Williams, Bridgehampton, New York's First Baptist Church. And boy, of course, you got to get her book. I see you, sis. You've become a favorite here really quickly. Pastor, you were making a point during the break.
why his decision whether or not to get the vaccine remain private? Those of us who live public lives, we live in a fishbowl. We should be able to hold on, keep something for ourselves. He has every right. He shares so much of his life that this one small thing he should absolutely have. He absolutely has the right to keep this private. Everything is not for public consumption or opinion. And as I stated on the break, people are treating this like a draft day or a free agent decision. And this is not that. This is a very private, personal, medical decision that he ought to have the right to make with his family. Everything does not need to be shared with everybody.
Well, Mark Fancher, why? I hear you. Mark Fancher, why do you think that they're making such a big deal of this? And now you've got the pundits on ESPN who are weighing in. He should be transparent. He should let us know what he's doing. Moreover, you should get the vaccine, LeBron. He's being taunted.
Well, a lot of it is speculation, but I would not be surprised if a part of this has less to do with concern about public health and sending a message than it does with asserting authority. He has been asked to do something, and this uppity boy says that he's not going to take our orders. He's not going to follow our directions. He's not going to do what we said to do. How dare him? I mean, don't we pay him enough money? I mean, who does he think he is? It put aside the whole question of public health. He needs to remember his place and who he is. And if we ask him to do something, he darn well better do it. And so we are going to force him to do it, just to make sure that he knows who he is and who we are, and so that the world understands that too.
Dwight, your take.
Couldn't have said that better myself. I think it is a fact of authority. I think it's if one flies over the cuckoo nest, it jeopardizes everybody that's in the asylum, and that's how they see these athletes. Is they have to make sure they keep control. The whole thing of Colin kneeling, it was not so much as the fact that they were offended by him kneeling, is that it demonstrated a Negro off of the farm, and that independence and rebellion, and that's a danger to an industry or to a society that makes its living off of imposition and, as Dr. King said, imposition and nullification of them having final say and final authority. And once you begin to break that, once you begin to, that Nat Turner thing kicks in, then you become a threat to the whole system and the whole structure of the society.
Attorney
I think
Patillo?
he hit it right on the head. It's a demonstration of authority.
And he won't shut up and dribble, Attorney Patillo. He just won't do it.
Well, exactly. You know, the same way that we still write about Bill Russell and Wilt 50 years after they played, we're going to write about LeBron 50 years after he played, not just for what he did on the court, but for the way that he challenged the system and challenged authority. You know, LeBron James basically invented player mobility, where a player says, I ain't going to be here, I'm going to leave, and this is where I'm going to go, and they have to do that. Before that, you know, if Jordan had the issue with the Bulls, he had to retire and play baseball.
Hallowed halls of sanity. I'm needed to straighten out things in Nutsville. The country that don't even enforce the law on individuals doing. What happened to the silence of Blue Lives Matter? Where they at? So how are you going to sit up and now try to tell me that all of a sudden that LeBron James should be the advocacy for me taking a shot or not, or why I should care about what him and his family is doing? Let's go one step further before I close and head back in, before I get caught with the pandemic of how dumb can you be. Let's look at a simple narrative and fact here. We've been in a recession. We're now in a pandemic and stuff. And the rollout of all of this mess has what has left us in this predicament that we're in. I would suggest that you try and watch the movie Pixar and Soul, or try Raya and the Last Dragon, and really see where we are as a society. And for the last and most important thing, if you cannot tell me one simple reason as to why our black athletes should be placed up under this type of tyranny, then I just simply say goodbye.
All right, Tommy has spoken. Mic dropping as usual. Let me go to Peter from Mount Prospect. Peter, what's on your mind?
Hi, Santita. I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's wonderful hearing your voice today.
Cool. I'll make this quick because I'm driving to work. Look, we're in a public health crisis. Look, whether or not you want to get the vaccine, that is your choice. But know that if this virus spreads amongst people who are not immunized, the virus can mutate, and it's possible that later on the road, we could have variants that could become resilient to the current vaccines that we have. So if anything, I've been doing my part and encouraging people to get their shots if they can. I just got my second Moderna dose yesterday, and I just feel a little sore in the arm where I got the injection, but other than that, it's okay. But, we're in a public health crisis, and I would plea with the people to do their part and get their shots once they become available.
But is that the only way to do your part, Peter?
Well, I also what I've been looking into as well, and also my sister has been doing this too, is she's been helping. We've been trying to help other people try to find an appointment to get their vaccine as well, because these appointments are booking up really quickly, and it seems like the best way to actually get an appointment is to have multiple eyes looking on your behalf. Just constantly scrolling through the booking websites and seeing where you can book an appointment to get your vaccine.
Well, my question for you, Peter, is this: is that the only way that you can do your part, the vaccine? They are treating this, they're using other treatments, therapeutics in other places around the world. And I'm not saying that the vaccine is not important. I think that it is. But different people are reacting to the vaccine differently. And shouldn't this be, given the fact that we all know people who've reacted, had some bad reactions to this, as you do with all medicines, as you can have with all medicines, other people are doing well, at least as far as we can tell right now. Should he have to? I mean, if he doesn't get the vaccine, does that diminish him in your eyes? Do you think that he's then a danger to society?
Well, I think the first and foremost, he's basically being a danger to himself and his immediate family. It's like COVID is something that I would not want to mess with and take a chance with.
Nobody does.
But I mean,
right?
Yeah.
If this is something that you decide that, say, I'm not going to take the vaccine, people take that. He said this is a serious discussion he's having with his family. Should this man of his house and the woman of his house, his wife, should they not have a decision that has nothing to do with us? Should they not be allowed to do that?
Mm-hmm. What, to say whether or not that they got the vaccine?
No, not to even discuss it. To discuss it amongst themselves, to keep it in the family.
Mm-hmm. It's certainly their right to do it.
Okay. No, but I'm hearing you. You're saying, because a lot of people feel this way, Pastor Williams, as Peter does. They're like, I hear you. You have the right to do it, but you ought to do it because this is a public health crisis.
I think that the decision is a personal one for everybody. I think Dr. Verholden said it best earlier. It's not that we pressure people to do it. We just want people to be informed about the decision that they're making. And if the decision is that they pass on having it, that is their personal decision. Again, I reiterate, when we start to choice, it becomes a very slippery public figures. It's quite barriers. Where are the boundaries in a situation like this? It becomes very difficult to manage after a certain point. It opens the door for everybody to have a say in the personal choices that people make. And isn't that something that we've been fighting for a very long time? This is not the first time that we found ourselves embattled or embroiled in a tug of war over personal decision. We're still very much talking about that today when we talk about pro-life and pro-choice. So this is not the first time we've come up upon something like this. But I do believe we need to be very careful when approaching this subject.
But are we being careful? The CDC started looking for Black influencers because they said they wanted to battle vaccine hesitancy in the Black community. And yet, the studies show that the most vaccine hesitant are white Republicans. The headline was, new polling shows white Republicans are among those most reluctant to get the vaccine. But the study actually said that they are the most reluctant to get the vaccine. So why don't they go to Tom Brady? Right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean,
and it's so interesting how they're the most reluctant to take it and have the most access to it. Isn't that ironic?
hey, I'd like to talk to them because I mean, if someone out in the audience is feeling this way, if you fit into that category, I want you to call because I love to have conversations. It's a comfortable space for uncomfortable conversations and respectful ones. I mean, uh, attorney Mark Fancher, why aren't they asking Tom Brady? I mean, because black people are not the most reluctant to get this vaccine. We are skeptics, no
Oh,
question about that. But it's the white community, white Republicans specifically, who are the most reluctant.
yeah. I mean, it's just part of the whole white supremacy thing that exists in this country. I mean, in Michigan where I live, when the pandemic first started, the explosion in infection was in Detroit, which is overwhelmingly black. And everybody looked immediately to Detroit as the epicenter in Michigan for this thing. But Black Detroit wised up really quick, and they began taking all of the precautions, and their infection rate went down, precipitously. Where the infection rate went up late into the pandemic was up in the rural areas, up in the Upper Peninsula and northern Michigan, and places which are, where you can't find a person of color. You might find some Native Americans, but you don't find many black people. And the infection rates up there just went sky high because of all of this Trump mythology about not wearing masks and about the pandemic being a myth and all of this kind of thing. And that's where the infection problem has been in the state. And I think that that's a reflection of what we see nationally. It's a holdover from the Trump influence on the thinking about the disease, and the fact that he went so far as to take the vaccination in private without disclosing it. There's no pressure on him, to disclose it, or there wasn't. And so all of these people still walk around with all of these false notions and delusions about what is and what should be.
Let me go to Roosevelt. Roosevelt, it has been a long time, but I'm so glad to hear your voice.
Santita, thank you for taking my call.
Of course.
See, both of you just stole my thunder. That's exactly where I was going. In all of this, from what I understand, all living ex-presidents have endorsed the vaccine. I think they did. I think they even did videos on it, except one. Where's Captain Warspeed? He came to a dead stop. On a sneak, he took the vaccine and didn't tell anybody before he left office. How come Trump is not getting all this backlash? Why does it have to be a minority sports leader or, and like you said, that's another part of my conversation. How come they're not asking white athletes such as Tom Brady, guys that play baseball, you name it? And that is, I wish somebody could tell me that. Why isn't Trump getting the backlash on all of this? The person that started all this and let the pandemic run wild, they're not doing anything about putting pressure on him. He's playing golf every day. So that's what I wanted to say.
Well, you said a whole lot. Everybody continue to call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. Tanya, what's on your mind out there in Aurora?
Well, just my usual rant. I guess, just for Holden was saying in terms of equity and a lot of what your panelists, which is this. You see elements, I guess, this is my anthropology background coming in now again. I apologize. But what I am seeing, this is just another commodification of Black folk where, sit down and be a good Negro, do what we tell you to do. And he has bucked this all along. And he's basically saying, I am not your Negro. If you, do your work, you cannot use him as a scapegoat for avoiding the work you haven't done as a government. One, addressing issues of healthcare disparities, addressing issues of social safety nets, all of this. And, I believe one of your panelists said, COVID is a snitch. This is what all of this, has been unmasked totally. So you can't use him as a Band-Aid to convince people to do something. And what actually, as a Black woman and as a Black person, period, that automatically would give me even further reason to dislike and to distrust, this whole vaccination process anyway. Because what are you doing? I see you putting pressure on a Black person to come tell me that I need to get vaccinated instead of, one, putting the protections in place that will protect people should there be adverse reactions. Their jobs are not in jeopardy. They have paid time off. They don't have to be in fear of losing their jobs or potentially incurring, astronomical medical bills if they end up still in the hospital, as a result of these kind of things. You are not doing your part as a government. Why are you trying to force somebody else to make a shortcut to doing what you need to be doing, which furthers that whole feeling of distrust? People see that. People are not stupid. So this is the thing that just gets me angered, coupled with the fact, too, that we're still being pressured at work to take the vaccine, too. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I need more information. I feel more comfortable. The more data that's collected and brought in, the better, I feel like I can maybe down the road then take the vaccine. But until then, I will continue to use, wash my hands, protect myself, physical distance, do the smart things to protect myself. And by the grace of God, I have remained healthy. My family has remained healthy. So, this is not a cure-all. And I don't like the fact that it's being marketed as a cure-all when, in fact, this does not address the issues, the healthcare crisis that we're in. We are just one pandemic away from another pandemic. I remember reading a number of articles where researchers were already saying we've got huge superbugs that are not being talked about in other parts of the world. So this is not our first pandemic coming that we've got. How many, vaccines are you going to take before you get it right at the get-go?
Well, stay right there, Tanya. Stay right there because I'm going to get some closing thoughts from the whole panel here. Let me start off with you, Attorney Robert Patillo. We can see you and hear from you on Sunday on WAOK from 1 to 4 Eastern Standard Time. Your closing thought?
Well, thank you so much for that, and also thank you for coming on this Sunday to talk about Black women in the civil rights movement for our Women's Day special, where we're going to have all women callers, all women guests to talk about women's issues, and I'm just going to sit back and shut up in the back seat. I grew up with a mother and sister, so I'm used to it. So I will be listening more so than talking. But I think what's important for us to understand is that that in the vein of LeBron, we have to make decisions for ourselves and what's best for our families and for our communities. Don't let anyone else bully you into it or push you into it. Do your own research, find out the facts, and then if you are having issues with vaccine access, then go through the proper channels to ensure that your voice is heard and that your community is protected.
Attorney Robert Fancher, National Conference of Black Lawyers. Your closing thought?
Yes, I just want to, continue to caution us to not judge. Jesus told us to judge not, and it's largely because we don't have all the information that God has. So many times individuals make decisions that may seem incomprehensible to us, but God knows, they know, and it's between them. So we can't judge LeBron. We don't know what goes into his decision to be public or to be private. And so, we just should stay in our lane.
Dwight McKee, your closing thought?
Well, I think Patillo said it all when he talked about underhand layups. We kind of slept that one, but I think you read between those lines.
Well, help us to read between the lines very quickly. Take us between the lines.
What LeBron brings to the table and the impact that they have on that game and the amount of money that's made on that game. And I think he's just really the combination of a lot of Black athletes from Jim Brown and Muhammad Ali all the way down the line to Hank Aaron, who when they tried to display some independence or they tried to take everything up another level, all of them were vilified and needed correction. And so it's the story of the black athlete, in my opinion.
Never forget Kurt Flood. Please never forget Kurt Flood, who broke up the plantation system in baseball and in all of sport. Pastor Tisha Williams, take us out. You got the final minute.
Wonderful. Thank you again for having me. I think what this all comes down to is a decision, and it comes down to choice. And I think what we have to remember here is okay to make a decision, but make an informed decision. It is okay to
1 minute.
options and make a choice, but make an informed choice. One of the moments in his speech last night, President Biden had a very empathetic moment where he looked at the camera and expressed that, you know, we need each other to live. We need each other to survive. If he was a pastor, he'd have probably put the choir in key to sing that song, I Need You to Survive. And at the end of the day, we need each other to survive.
Amen. Pastor Tisha Williams,
30.
everybody. A pastor of the First Baptist Church of Bridgehampton, New York. You got to get her book, I See You, Sis. This is about great women in the Bible. Great women in the Bible. So glad that she's a great woman among all these wonderful men with us today. I'm Santita Jackson. I'll see you on
15.
Keep Up Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson on Sunday from 7 to 9. And I'll be with Robert
10.
on his show on WAOK Sunday afternoon. But whether I'm there or not, listen to him every Sunday. And of course, attorney C.K. Hoffler every Tuesday on that same station at 11 o'clock. I'm Santita Jackson, everybody. God bless you. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Be safe. Enjoy yourself. And remember, it's daylight savings time. We're going to lose an hour this weekend. Oh, my goodness. Don't forget that. Get some rest, though. God bless you. Love you much. I know you've got a heart out, Mark, but thank you so much for being with us. You all are just great. Oh, I love you. Oh.
May I ask a question, Santita?
Oh, honey, do whatever you want to do. Yes. I'm glad you stayed.
Robert, I'm so glad you had me. Thank you. Robert, can I have the information for your show on Sunday? I'd love to tune in.
Oh, I'm gonna send it to you because you should get the new Robert and you should do it. Absolutely.
Okay,
it's
great.
WAOK. Oh, honey, he is, as you can hear, he's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
love that he's doing this Women's History Month dialogue. It's awesome.
He is great. Okay.
He is great. Awesome.
He's great. But so you are great, and I thank you. I know you had to be here this long today, but I want to thank you for.
Of course, I hope I was able to contribute.
Oh no, you were fantastic. You were absolutely great, and
It
I just
was
want to thank you.
wonderful.
Well, I mean,
Thank
you're wonderful.
you.
You're great, and I want to thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Dwight McKee, you still there?
I am.
Thank you so much. You know, you always bring so much to the table. We just love you. Did we lose Mark? Okay, well, everybody, I love you all. I'm gonna let you go, and bless your hearts. Have a wonderful weekend. Yes, Dwight, were you going to say something?
Thank you. I just want to tell the minister how much I enjoy her. She is really profound.
Is she not profound?
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I enjoy you too very much. Thank you so much.
That's high praise coming from Dwight. Dwight doesn't give praise.
I know it.
You have to earn it from him.
I'll be smiling all day behind that.
Trust and believe. Better, honey, because guess what? You got to earn that praise. Because his arms stay folded.
She's fantastic.
Isn't she?
Thank you, sir.
Thank
you so much.
That's right, honey. His arms stay folded and he stays disappointed, but that's all right. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. But hey, everybody, thank you so much for bearing with me as we've had these connectivity issues. Going to continue to work on that, and I'll tell you why in the next few days. You know, we're going to be making some positive changes to the show. Great changes, positive changes. You'll be able to see everybody who participates. They'll be on camera. We're making some positive and some big changes. And so it'll be a good thing. So I love you, everybody. I hope that you all have had a good weekend. And you know what? Thank you, Maria and Daryl and Lorraine and Bab. And thank you for bearing with me today, Tanya and Medi, and who's also Maria, Vicky and Janae, and just Monique. And so Bab, Barbara, Blue Ray. I love you. You all in these names, Monique. Love you all so much. Thank you so much, Gail. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all for being with us. You make Nina, you make all of this worth modest. Monique, you make all of this worthwhile. This Twyla down there in Alabama. Thank you so much, sweetie. Thank you so much, Samantha. Thank you all, Daphne. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being with us today. Thank you, Ellie. How you doing? Thank you so much. Sending you much love, Daryl and Melissa, and all of you. Just thank you for just choosing Philip to share your time with that, and Jewel, Adrian. Thank you for choosing Louise for your time with us. That means so much. I'm deeply honored to be with you in this time of pandemic. Thank you for really creating a family, something to look forward to. And we look out for each other. If we're not there, if we don't see one another present, we ask and we check to find out, to make sure that everybody's okay. That means a whole lot. It means a whole lot to me. I'm just honored that this is a nice landing place for all of you. And I love you. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you, Paul. Great show, everybody. Love you. See you next week on the Santita Jackson Show. And Pastor, you were